Hey, welcome to this tutorial video, if you will. We're going to be looking at some things that I've noticed flight simmers doing online. So I'm hoping that this video might help people. It's basically going to be talking about how to handle default cockpit views as far as your seating position and what it allows you to actually see out the window versus when should you make an adjustment, okay? So we're going to just jump in the airplane here. And this is the default view of the IXCG 737-300. And it looks great. You know, look at that. You can see out the window. We can see the runways and all that stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate, even though it looks good here, how does this affect the airplane while flying? And how can we compensate? So we'll check back in a moment. All right, we are back, but we're airborne now. And what we're going to do is basically have this aircraft fly on autopilot, which personally I don't like to do as much when I'm on approach, but for setting the views, this is going to be really helpful. And so we are lined up on runway 36 center at Memphis. You could use this on any runway. And the approach basically takes us down to, if we use category 1, a 200 feet above the touchdown zone elevation with a decision altitude of 541 feet. So what we're going to do is just have a look inside. I'm going to hit the W key because that's the default view of your airplane. And if you look at the default view, whoa, I can't even see, I can't see the runway. And if I use the F to tilt down, it doesn't help much, right? So you might say, oh, well, okay, let me just move it up a little bit. You know, you can do that too. However, here's the thing. It turns into a guessing game. So I'm going to show you to set up actually two important cockpit views that I find very important. But let's fast forward to actually getting down to near minimums. All right, we're back. We have the aircraft paused. We are 20 feet above minimums, basically. I believe the minimums were charted as, let's have a 541 feet, 200 feet above the elevation. You can see our aircraft is right near the runway. We can see that out the window. Now, here's the standard view again, right? And once again, I already lost some of the approach lights under my nose with this view. And where that becomes a real problem is when the visibility is really poor and you can't see the approach lights, right? You're looking for those approach lights near minimums. You're trying to shoot that, nice ILS approach, but you lose sight of the approach lights before you even reach minimum. Another thing that's important when doing it this way is that you let the airplane fly the approach with the correct speeds for the approach. Make sure that you plug into your FMS or you look it up on the table what the appropriate approach speed and flap setting is for your current weight. And that way, when you pause it, you're basically at 5 knots above VREF, and the airplane will be already at a proper angle of attack if it's stabilized at the right speed on the glide path. And then you could set your views up from there. So that's definitely a very important thing. If you go up like this, I use the control key and the arrows because it does it a little bit slower, okay? And what I want to do is I want to get to a point where basically I can see right down. Let me go too high. Okay, now I can see the top of the glare shield. But obviously my head is too high. This would be like the torso of a 7'6" person. So I can bring myself down to right about there. Okay, I'm in line, right? I'm still a little bit high. So what I can use is the period key to get closer. And then that makes me have to go down more. Like this. The period goes forward with that. You notice I'm not zooming the outside world. I'm just moving my camera back and forth. Really handy tool. Okay. So we can get like down to about this angle right here. And then I can go down a little bit lower. Right. Just to get to like a more realistic view. And then I can get once again a little bit closer. Okay. So the cool thing about this view right now, if it's kind of cropped, okay, so this will be your secondary view. All right, this is like your approach view down to minimums, and you're shooting those precise approaches, whatever. And then you just adjust the tilt of your head to where you want it to be, so that you can see like your instrument panel. You can still grab that auto throttle switch. You can see your flap settings still, right? So that's kind of handy. And I don't need to see the entire nav display when I'm shooting an approach necessarily. I can see my heading right there in front of me. I got my speed and everything. So if I like this view, I can just hit Control and whatever the numpad is. So if you have a numpad, right, you can store the view by hitting control and whatever number you like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, for the sake of this demonstration, hit control 2, okay, as the way I want it to save. All right, nice. Now if I go to W key and reset this, and now I'm going to hit the view I just saved. Look at that. So if I keep flying this, I'm going to lose sight of the runway in the flare. So that's another really important thing, okay? When you leave your default view like this and you're too low on the panel, if you're pitching up and you lose sight of the runway, then you have it set wrong. If I basically go back to that view, and now look at that. I'm looking down at the runway. I can see the beginning of the approach lights, which is vital, because that's what's going to allow us to continue descending down. And when you're in soupy conditions, of course, it's very important. And now let's watch this if we were into the W key once again. I'm going to unpause it, let it keep flying down, let the airplane flare by itself. All right. It depends on how this airplane flies it, but you're going to lose sight of the aim point before you even touch down, right?
40, 30, 20,
10. All right. Now we pause it right there, okay? So if I were to go back, all right, well, let me just let it roll out for like 100 feet, okay? Okay, go IXCG, not a bad landing. All right, now let's rewind, and we're going to watch the same one, but in the view that I created. All right, so we'll come back about here. I'll go back even a little bit further. All right, so right there, I'm going to put in the view that I have, and now just watch sort of the perspective of the runway. All right, so we're coming definitely past through minimums. Okay. Really clear view. I can see the threshold lights. I've identified those. I can continue landing. Runway environment sight. And again, you know, you can really see everything very clearly, which is nice. All right. Great. So having that seat position, I think, is critical. I mean, any flight instructor will tell you that also if you do real flight training, that you want a consistent seat position so that your eye point is always the same. And that way, the outside world is actually the one in motion and you're not compensating for inconsistent seat positions, if that makes sense. Hopefully this helps. And let me know how you do it. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, open for always another good idea. Thanks for watching.